I'll give you the tools, we'll give you the resource, I'll give you the platform, but the only way you're going to get more people in your team is by you doing a great job, not from me. No one was actually properly full-time, apart from obviously Tom, who was the founder, and then Luke's our head of agency. I'm very much taking on that more sort of CEO role, just overseeing the business. Quite a few of them, we've gone from 50 to 100 pound spend, now they're spending 7-8 grand a day. We've been with them on that journey from 3 staff to 30 staff, or 3 staff to 50 staff.
What do you think are the 3 most important things to ensuring a good lead cost?
Your landing page has got...
It's interesting, I've not seen a lead generation agency at scale of your volume.
There still needs to be a bit of fire in our bellies to make sure that we're still ripping stuff up and changing stuff and getting better.
People don't realise their true potential until someone opens that potential up to them.
Like what works for us might not work for you, for example, but doesn't mean it doesn't work.
Can you talk me through the thought process behind 90-day initial commitment and 30-day rolling afterwards? Because we do the opposite. So Joe, you started off as a media buyer and then in 4 years became a director of the agency you're now in.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
It's quite a long story actually. Do you want it from the point that I just joined Leadly and how that came about?
Yeah, it'd be good to understand your entry point at Leadly and how you managed to progress to now being a shareholder in the business.
So I just started off as a freelancer media buyer because Leadly was essentially a business built off freelancers. So there was a handful of us, plus Tom, pulling the strings. That's where I come from before, just doing the media buying. Did a bit of account management as well. I think just over time, I just grew into that role, grew into being more of an account manager. And because me and Tom are quite similar in terms of our attitude towards work, a lot of synergies on a personal level as well, and the fact it did also help that I was close to him in terms of location wise. We spent a lot more time together. I think as the agency just developed, I just took on more and more of a role. Every time that there was an opportunity to take on more of a role, I would always use my initiative and just go for it. So it's just been a sort of a natural progression really, up until the point that the agency can't just rely on freelancers and it has to become a more solidified business. Tom is your typical entrepreneur, very much a visionary type person, hasn't got a massive passion internally for growing an agency. I do. I really wanted to do that with Leadly. So over the 2 or 3 year point, there was an opportunity that was going to be available within that 3 to 4 year gap, like that 12-month period. And he got to the point where he just offered it me. He actually acquired, so Leadly actually acquired my agency, which is the sub-brand that you see, which is Nonstop. That was where I come from when I was a freelancer. So I did my own stuff on the side as Nonstop, did some work with Tom, but the work that Tom was giving me was just so much, and it was such a massive opportunity that 90% of my time was focused there, and I could see where I could be within 3 or 4 years. So yeah, that was in December last year. Quite a slog. So if you've been through shareholders agreements and just going back and forth and making sure everything's right, because you want to make sure that once that's signed, you just never have to think about it ever again. But yeah, all done. And then we've just been head down this year, cracking on, and it's been fantastic.
Nice, man. That's awesome. So can you paint a picture of what the business looked like at your entry point? So
yeah,
roughly kind of team size and so on, and then to now.
Yeah.
Today, where you're at as a business, and I don't know if you mind sharing revenue at all, or
yeah. I think there was maybe 4 of us, but of those 4, there was obviously Tom, and then there was myself who was doing my own thing as well with Nonstop, and then there was 3 other people. One of those people was actually just doing it on the side of a full-time role, and the other 2 were doing something similar. So at that point, which was April 2020, there was 4 people in there. No one was actually properly full-time, apart from obviously Tom, who was the founder. Compare that to now, there's myself, there's Luke, who's the head of agency. So there's me, Luke and Tom at the top, and it's great with me, Luke and Tom because we're all really different. Tom, as I said, is that very much that visionary person. He's always asking the questions, always making sure that, we're not getting comfortable. He's looking at what's next for us, getting us into key partnerships, that type of thing. I'm very much the people person. Really, it's sort of in the middle of maybe Tom and Luke, taking on that more sort of CEO role, just overseeing the business. I love process as well as the people side. And then Luke's our head of agency, so he's just a Facebook, a meta wizard. Below that, we've got pod structures now that have been tweaked and tested, and we've got some things right, we've got some things wrong. We're in a place now that it is working. We've got pod structures which contain, your senior media buyers, designers, account managers. We've also got an ECRM department, so we do email and SMS marketing now. We've got an SEO department, so we hired an SEO person. Other than that, we've got the creative team as well. So within there is graphic designers, videographers, script writers, UX designers, front-end devs. And I think we're at about 30 people now. I think the
Nice.
2 people that we've just hired does take us to around 30 with a few freelance in there as well. We are looking... No, we've actually just offered 2 more people as well. So since March, Coral, who does our HR and people stuff, I forgot to mention Coral, but she is absolutely fantastic. We've just been on an absolute roll. We just seem to have got the onboarding right in terms of getting those people in and what happens from day 1 to 3. And yeah, just since March, I think we've doubled in size. I think we've gone from like 15 to 30.
I read that on your LinkedIn, that you've doubled in size. What do you think? Because obviously you have to have the ability to do that from a financial perspective and from a lead flow perspective for your own business. What do you think has been the catalyst that's allowed you to double agency size in the last 12 months?
A healthy margin within the services that we offer. And I think the guys, to be fair to them, everyone before March was probably, they were overworked, and that's something that we've had to address. So actually, in terms of what we're doing now, everyone is at the capacity they should be at, whereas I think in March, prior to that, everyone was overworked. So we've had to use, now we've got all the onboarding right and the hiring's absolutely bang on. We want to bolster that team because we need to make sure that the guys are happy and their welfare is being taken care of. So yeah, it's been quite a journey. But I think looking at 2025 now, I can't wait for it.
Nice. It's almost like you've been preparing for a big growth period.
Yeah. And I think the massive props to the guys for sticking with us as well. If they ever felt overworked, I mean, they must feel like they're in a good enough environment and they can see some opportunity moving forward that they would stick with us. I'm not saying like they're overworked, like they're all stressed out in their minds every day, but when you just I'm conscious of how they are performing, and if they're dipping, it's not necessarily because they're not good enough. It's probably because they just got too much on.
I kind of feel like in the agency model, and certainly what I've experienced in my own agency as well, you have to go through those periods where you are intensely squeezed. It is a really testing business model, any service-based business. And if anything, I think those periods are really healthy for the company because it shows you who really is there for the long run.
Yeah.
It really isolates those individuals. And it's completely cool if the people that step out are like, this isn't for me. Because it is an intense business, especially when we're working on deadlines and demands and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in terms of deadlines, we're performance-based. Like our core product is the media buying service, so like paid ads.
Mm-hmm.
When a new client signs up, it's 90 days because we say, you commit to us, we'll commit to you. We need to find out what works, what doesn't. So in theory, after 90 days, you're in a position where you're ringing me up saying, Joe, how do we triple our budget? That's a perfect scenario. But then after that, it's 30-day rolling, and that just keeps everyone on the toes. We don't tie people into long-term contracts. We're fully ingrained into these clients' businesses. We could be 70, 80, sometimes 100% of the wallet share. So the pressure is there, and when it's bad, they're onto you, but when it's good, you really feel like you're a part of that, which creates quite an interesting dynamic within the team.
That's interesting. Can you talk me through the thought process behind 90-day initial commitment and 30-day rolling afterwards? Because we do the opposite. And we do like a 30-day initial rolling. If you don't like it, you're out. And then we try and tie into longer contracts and incentivize that afterwards. So I'd be really interested to hear your perspective on that.
I think from putting my account management hat on, because that's what I've done over the years. It's just about managing expectations for us. Now, we could get it right in 2 weeks, and in that scenario, we've under-promised and over-delivered. But that 90-day period is just something that works, and I think the clients like it. And it also, what it does as well, is because we have a minimum spend of, say, like 6k, it also gets rid of some of the clients who maybe just aren't the right fit for us at that time in terms of budget or commitment, because essentially if it's 6k commitment and our fee, say 2.5 or 3, whatever it may be, it's best part of a 30k commitment over 3 months, and then we're very transparent with that. And if that's not right for you at that time, that's absolutely fine. We can recommend a freelancer, we can recommend some other agencies who will take on maybe smaller spends, and if they're going to do well, we'll normally see them in 12 months and they're ready to go, right, we're ready for the full package now with Leely. And then after that, we put our money where our mouth is, I suppose. We'll commit to that 30-day rolling, and we sort of want that pressure.
No, it makes sense.
Keeps us on it.
Yeah. And it's pure lead gen, or do you work with e-commerce businesses as well?
Purely lead gen. Predominantly automotive finance. So Tom and myself, I worked for an automotive software company for 6 years prior. Tom has sold cars himself. He was also a consultant just before starting Leadly, on doing the same thing that we're doing, but helping people generate leads. What does this guy say to him once? So a few years ago, there was like a bit of a gold rush with automotive finance and generating car finance applications. I don't know what the guy's name was, but he said to Tom, "What do you do in a gold rush?" And Tom was like, "I don't know." And he says, "Sell shovels." So rather than thinking about selling the commodity, so the car, sell them the tool that will help them get the car, so sell them the lead. And I thought, that's great. And now that's always stuck with me that guy said that to him, whoever it was.
Lead gen is obviously a completely different model to your kind of typical direct-to-consumer agency. And I notice a lot of agencies lean towards direct-to-consumer in the ad space, and at least initially kind of start off in lead generation. Lead generation has always been something that I've been drawn to myself. I educate a lot of lead generation agencies, and I truly believe it's arguably the superior of the two models, because client acquisition is a lot simpler.
Yeah.
And I think the advertisement, the actual fulfillment process is a lot simpler as well. It's a lot less strain on the team. Personal opinion. But being a lead generation agency yourselves and running lead gen campaigns for your clients, you at your level must have some pretty superior lead generation strategies for yourselves. So how does your service reflect in your own ability to generate leads for your own business? What does client acquisition look like for Leadly?
That's a very good question. Our strategy has been, it's not even been a strategy, it's just been something that has been the natural course of where we're going, has been to scale vertically. So in terms of revenue, like last year, so say Jan 23 compared to Jan 24, we've doubled, but our client base in terms of numbers stayed the same.
Because of performance? Because
of performance, and because additional products like ECRM, so other things that we can bolt on to add value to these clients. That's one thing we're always cautious of. If we're going to add a product in or a service, it has to add value to their performance, because these are performance-based companies. They're sales companies, essentially. So everything that we do needs to add a benefit to that. We're in a place now that, again, we've had like hybrid roles. We've had people trying to do a bit of sales, a bit of account management, and we just found out over the last 3 to 6 months, it just doesn't work, because account management will always take priority over sales, because existing clients, if they've got an issue, I'm not going to tell you to try and chase a prospect if you've got a client on the phone who wants something doing. But now we've got more client services people coming in, and we can get the salespeople fully back on that to start off where we want to be moving into 2025 and beyond, really.
And are we talking cold outreach, or are we talking ads to funnel?
So what we were doing before, which is quite an interesting way of doing it, is we were finding like 10 companies a quarter, or 10 to 20 companies a quarter, and then we were getting a studio, not as nice as this, but we were hiring like a studio, and we were doing like tailored videos. So I would actually do a video directed at their CEO, and then we'd run like ads on LinkedIn, top of funnel stuff, and try and get them through to a landing page. It was actually doing okay, but then other priorities come in, another key partner comes into the agency, and then it just takes a back seat. We've always done well from referral, like in terms of automotive finance, because me and Tom have a network in there. We've always done really well from that. Like, I think in that space, it's a very, very niche part of the market. It's probably like 5% of the car finance market, but I would say we are the biggest in that space. So in terms of people referring us on, when clients get to a certain size, it's mainly other companies will say, you need to go and speak to Leadly now. They'll take you they'll help get you to the next level.
Interesting. So as far as niching down into car finance is concerned, is that something that, from a tactical perspective, you just want to stay optimized around, or have you tried to break into other markets and found them not as fruitful as what you're in at the moment? Like, what's the thought process behind just kind of sticking with that one thing?
We tried a couple. I mean, we are still testing some now, and the main thing for us is volume. We want volume because we want to be able to scale with them. So car finance being the biggest volume financial product in the country just makes perfect sense. We have tried other ones. We tried a couple of insurance companies, just didn't really work. We thought about going overseas with car finance. We've got a couple of partners that are in Australia, and every time I see them, they just say, Joe, Tom, you need to come over here. Like, you guys will clean up in this market. So that's one thing that we have considered. We still think there's another 20-25% growth we can get out of our car finance market. Again, because we've got like SEO in there now, we're looking at we've got to do a lot of email marketing. So even with our current clientele, we can still grow into those with additional products. And then the email marketing piece, we can expand that out to, doesn't have to just be the type of clients we want. We could do that for Arnold Clark, for example.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, we actually done a small piece of consulting on an ad account not too long ago, which was in the law space, and it wasn't accident claim, and I don't want to butcher it by saying, because I can't recall exactly what it was. Joe, my business partner, would know. There's currently spending in the UK only budget £1.2 million per day on Meta. Per day on Meta. It's within the top 10 largest ad account spends in the world at the moment. And the model is probably something that you've explored yourself. So I'm interested in understanding, if you have and how that went, is start off as an agency, generate leads on behalf of clients, you're doing rev share, and I want to unpack that as well, how you're doing performance models and some of your do's and don'ts there. But then eventually the agency's like, well, why don't I just put spend behind our own landing page and create our own sub-brand and then just sell the leads to other law companies and so on and so forth, which has worked exceptionally well for them in this whatever. It's kind of, I suppose, the new boom of accident claim, which was absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And there's been a few of those over time. Have you ever explored that in yourselves? Have you explored generating or starting your own sub-brand and generating your own leads and selling them to companies? And how did that go?
Yeah, we've done that. So we've got a brand called Lonio, which isn't really fully firing, but that can be an umbrella term for car finance. We're doing some personal loan stuff as well, and that is us basically doing that more affiliate models where we use our own money, generate the leads, and then we just sell them to buyers, i.e. if it's personal loans, it'd be the lenders. If it's car finance, it'd be brokers or dealerships that just want to buy leads off you.
Interesting. And what are the biggest challenges when it comes to that versus just working with clients?
The car finance stuff we haven't properly picked up, but it's on the cards once we've got this more resource in. It's for 2025, that. In terms of personal loan, the biggest challenge for that for us, it was just understanding the market a little bit more. It's been a little bit of a bit on the side, whereas it needs, because it's a new thing for us to understand that we need a lot more headspace and resource into it. So again, one for the start of next year, we can see the opportunity with it, and we've had some consulting from people who've done it on large scale, 400 or 500k a month sort of level revenues from it. They've already highlighted to us 2 or 3 key points in there. That one of those things is we're only monetizing like 30% of the inquiries at the minute, so 70% of that traffic is just going nowhere. We're remarketing to it, which is good, but in terms of the initial lead that comes in, 70% of it's going elsewhere, and then these other people that we've spoke to have given us like 2 to 3 avenues that we could go down to try and actually make the most of all the data that we're passing through.
Fine. Yeah, makes sense. It's getting to understand the market on the same level that the clients do who have worked in that market for tens and tens of different years. It's one thing advertising the product. It's another thing having that deep-rooted understanding of the market, I suppose.
And that's the best thing about us niching into car finance. The conversations that we're having, our clients will ring us. It's quite a consultative approach sometimes. They will ask us, not from a marketing level, they will genuinely want to know operationally, what should I do with my sales team? Like, we do get that question in terms of how should I split it out? How many approvals should we be having per day, per agent? How many finance approvals? These are the sort of conversations that we have on a daily basis, and we can actually advise with them on it, or give them insights based off what other clients are doing, or just say some people do it this way, some people do it that way. They actually feel like they can look to us not just from what's my cost per lead or what's my cost per deal. It's, you really feel like you're a part of that.
And that's only something that really comes from only specialising in one niche, really.
Yeah.
I noticed you guys have a software solution as well called Prove.
Yeah.
And I wondered, or was intrigued as to whether that was built as a way to own more of the solution as well within that specific market. Does that come into the agency delivery?
I'd say so, yeah. And that's come from a place, again, that's one of Tom's great ideas. He realises that clients don't necessarily have full visibility with pounds and pence on what ad is generating what revenue. So he's developed this software that will give him that insight. So rather than it just being in Ads Manager and all the data is incorrect, or rather than it just being in the CRM and it's got no marketing data attached to it, it's just a piece of software that puts them both together, essentially.
Interesting. Talk to me about ECRM. What is it? What do you do exactly?
So the main thing that we do with ECRM is re-solicit customers who have been approved for finance but haven't dealt, or maybe declined for finance and haven't dealt, and then say with the declined, if they've applied 60 days ago, their credit score may have improved, so we can start to email them to say, good news, your credit score could possibly have improved, X, Y, Z, and then you just get them back into the funnel then. The difference with ECRM is we actually charge per deal, so there's a small setup cost, and then after that, all the work we're doing in the background, if we don't get a sale completed, we don't actually charge any money. That's just email and SMS. That is a very base product is what we do. And then once we've got that going for 3 months, then we start to look at building out more ad hoc campaigns and getting more into the nuts and bolts of...
So it's a more sophisticated name for database reactivation. Yeah.
It always starts off with that re-solicit piece, but then over time, we obviously get more and more ingrained. We start looking at like the transactional journey. So once someone's actually applied, what happens? So do they get 3 text messages in the first day? Do they get 2? Do they get 1? Do they get 3 emails? Like, we can actually map that out for them as well. So we always start with that re-solicit piece. And then over time, as the account grows, we'll basically look to overhaul their entire email and SMS marketing strategy for the client.
Could you break down what your kind of service delivery looks like for the perspective if you're working with, because I think, and just for anyone who's watching this, because of course there's going to be a lot of agency owners watching this and a lot of lead generation agencies as well, and I suppose one of the biggest takeaways just for everyone here, if you haven't already got the idea, is that you guys, your success is based on working with a specific market incredibly well and then snowballing off the back of that because everybody wants to work with you in that industry, or at least people that know of you.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said about that, which means you've got really granular and obsessed with service. And so you are 3, 4, 5, 6 steps ahead from the majority of lead generation agencies out there that don't ever allow themselves the ability to do that because they're always spreading between multiple different industries. It's like, one moment we're here, 1 minute we're there. And so the service always ends up surface level. It's meta ads to a CRM system, maybe a bit of appointment setting on the side, but it never gets deeper than that. It's not deep nested in an industry. So at your level, now you have taken the time to really get deep into an industry. What does fulfillment look like for you with the typical client? Are you working on packages? Is it productizers? Could you paint a picture of how things look?
What in terms of like our key partners?
A typical
What do we do
client,
for them?
I am exactly. I'm a car finance company. I have your average budget to spend and a decent list. I've been established in the industry for a long time. I just want to get an idea of how deep you guys are looking at, or how much of the picture you are now involved in within your niche.
I suppose it's. Yeah, I don't want to. I'll try and give a rough answer in terms of what you would get on like a daily, weekly basis from us.
Yeah, I mean, like we run meta ads to generate leads, and
Yeah.
then we will appointment set those leads. Are you contacting the leads yourself? Are you getting involved in the phone process? Yeah. What does everything
So
look like?
we are. It is still lead generation. So we will advertise on their behalf to a landing page. The lead goes into their CRM, and then their fulfillment team, their sales team picks it up.
Have you ever got involved in that side and dealing with the leads on your end?
We've never done that ourselves, but we have gone into the depths of looking at if we feel on both sides that there's some inefficiencies. We will look from our side as a marketing perspective, but we've got a good enough relationship with our clients where we can question them on sales performance. Can you send us your call log for the last 30 days? Let's see if the average number of calls has gone down, because we might find that the sales team is saying that the leads are not very good, which is always the ongoing battle between sales and marketing. But we might ask the question, okay, that's fine, but let's have a look at the sales floor. Sometimes you might find that the sales calls have gone down. The average calls has gone down from 3 per person to 1. So the business owner then can easily identify that it might be more of an issue with the sales guys. Or, are they having some things going on the personal life? There's been a lot of holidays, all these types of things. So that's the stuff that when issues arise, we won't just look to go, well, our cost per lead's good, so that's not us. Let's understand it. Let's have a meeting. Let's really get into the nuts and bolts of why it isn't working. And then off the back of that, you're just with each other then. It's just such a partnership then at that point that you never really feel like they will leave. And I think since I've worked with Leadly, and some of the clients with Leadly were actually my clients in my old place as well, they're still here. So 4 years on, quite a few of them, we've gone from when we were small, taking them from 50 to £100 spend. Now they're spending 7-8 grand a day. Like they're the same companies. We've been with them on that journey from 3 staff to 30 staff, or 3 staff to 50 staff. So it's, yeah, like I say, it's just snowballed.
Nice. That's awesome. I know a problem that a lot of lead generation agencies have, which is why I asked about you getting involved in the sales process, is a big problem a lot of agencies have in many niches is they can perform incredibly well. They've got a great cost per booked call and cost per lead, and all the metrics are looking great on the agency level, but then the client just can't convert the leads, and then there's this back and forth about the leads aren't right, and sometimes there is a conversation there, but most of the time it's actually because the business isn't sophisticated enough to handle that volume of leads and properly and follow up with them in time whilst running the company, and you can understand all the pains. But I suppose in your industry, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the reasons maybe you haven't had to do that is because you're working with a niche that is already quite sophisticated from a sales perspective. They are sales floor businesses, aren't they?
Yeah, and then we know, because we know the industry, in that initial discovery call and sales call and onboarding, we know the questions that we should be asking. We know that if a client says to us X, Y, Z, so for example, if there's 20 lenders in the industry, they've only got 6 or they've only got 3, that's a red flag to us to say, we could send them all the leads in the world, but none of them are going to get approved for a finance. Right, red flag. And we'll be transparent with them and say, you need to get X, Y, and Z on before we'll even look at this. That's just an example of the qualification process that we will make sure, be transparent with them. And all we're doing is saving ourselves a headache after week 2, week 4, because we'll be scratching our head saying, why is it not working? And so will they, when really it's because they haven't got the lenders in place, for example.
Fine. And presumably you only know that because you've had a client that's had that issue before, and
Exactly,
through repetition.
Exactly, yeah. And that's the same thing with everything, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah. And there'll be many people watching this thinking, I would love to get to that level. And really the only way you can get to your level is through repetition of working with a large volume of clients in the same industry day in, day out for years on end. And then only then It's like, I always love the bamboo shoot analogy that like you plant bamboo and it's something crazy like 3 years. The shoots just stay underground and nothing blossom, nothing comes out, and then all of a sudden in like 1 month you get like meters and meters and meters worth of growth. It's kind of like with you guys for the first formation of the company. It's like you're there, you're growing, and then all of a sudden the last 12 months double the team. 2025 it's going to be crazy growth. And that's it's all that work that's kind of happened under the surface, but lots of agencies don't allow themselves to get to that point in the first place and put in that time. Yeah,
it's exciting, and we've had a couple of people join us recently. One of them has been at MediaCom, one's been at the Hook Group's, I think it's Ingenuity or something like the agency within there. And she said, "This feels special," which to us is like, I think it is, and I think we have got a team now. And I often say this to people, like I walk around the office and I listen to people, and I listen to them sometimes, and I'm like, they are mental in the best possible way. Like they're having such a laugh. But then I'll walk around again, like say 20 minutes later, and they're all talking around a project, and they all come at it from their own angle, and they've all got their own input. There's a media buyer, there's an email person, there's an SEO person, for example, there's an account manager, and they're all collaborating to get the best for that client. And so like us as the leadership team now are just looking at it going, I think we've got it here. We could really, really kick on next year. I think everyone can see that as well. Everyone feels like they're part of something, which is lovely.
That's awesome. What is the plan from you to go from where you are now to scaling the company, to making an active decision of, okay, we want to continue growing, but taking control of that growth rather than just wait for the referrals to come? What's the plan ahead?
Yeah, so we've got Ash, who came in with us. He's like does key accounts but does sales as well. Again, like I said, he's been doing more account management, and so is the other salesperson that we had in. They've been pulled into account management duties. So now we've got more client services people coming in. We can completely separate and focus those roles down. And then next year we've got a decent enough pipeline of people that we can still go after in the car finance space, where we could get another year's growth out of it easy. And the plans that we've got with our current clients, again, if we can scale vertically, let's do that. Let's put more resource into dealing with our top 10% of our clients. And if we can help get them to another 25-30% growth, because of how our pricing model works, we will scale with them. And that's why we've always done it that way, really.
It is somewhat of a minefield, at least in the early stages, for inexperienced people to do like performance-based models. Were you performance-based from right at the start of the business, or was it like retainer, and then once you understood the figures, you started introducing performance-based? Like, what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from? And is it pay per appointment? Is it pay per close? Like, what does it look like?
Just per lead, just a pay per lead performance model, yeah. And it's always been like that. And it's just easy sums. If the cost per lead is £10 and our fee's £2, the all-encompassing fee for that lead is £12, and then at point of discovery call, we'll work those figures through with them. So say our target for you over the first 3 months is get this to this. Our fee will be this. You need to convert at this, and that will give you a cost per deal of this. Does that work for you? Oh yeah, because my revenue is double that. Brilliant. We can work with you, and it's a really good exercise that to actually look at. It might not work for them. Therefore, the average revenue is spitting out what the costs are, and with it including our fee, we'll be like, well, it's probably not going to work this. You might need to look at other avenues before you come to us, for example. It's
really interesting. I find that, and it's probably because I'm exposed by so many new agencies, everyone's always looking for an edge. And it's like, oh, no cost per lead. You can't do cost per lead anymore because no one's interested in cost per lead. You have to do cost per appointment or get involved in the sale and so on. And in many cases, these are just kind of shiny objects and ways to mask just a way to try and desperately stand out, but actually very unnecessary. Do you have somewhat of a formula for or any advice for anyone who's watching this who is in a lead generation agency right now that has wanted to get into kind of a performance-based or let's say a pay-per-lead model to establish what you should be charging per lead for an industry? Like, how do you know when working with an industry what that lead should be worth or is worth to a client, and then be confident enough to ask for that with every client that you work with in the early stages, you know?
Yeah, I think early doors, it was a lot more ad hoc, whereas now we've got a full pricing matrix and it'll look at, if you only take 600 leads off us every month. I say take it. Like if we generate you 600 leads, the cost per that lead might be say £4, for example. If you're taking 1,000 a day, then the cost might be £1. So it is a sliding scale. So it will get cheaper per lead as you scale up, which I think the clients like. I think you just have to factor in, because it's very easy to get carried away and just look at like our revenues as agency owners. You have to factor in what it looks like for the client. You have to factor in with your incremental increase on top of that lead price. If you rework the figures, is that going to be profitable for that client in terms of their industry? What do they sort of go for as a percentage? Is it 20% margin? Is it 30%? Is it 10%? If you rewind your figures and do an average, does that still work for them on an average basis? If it does, and it works out for you, great. That's something you can. That's a starting point, I think. And that's again ties back to we know the industry, and we've got 30 clients across that same industry, so we can really just fine tune it over. We've really fine tuned it over the years.
100%. That's great. So, you're doing a retainer as well, or is it just the performance?
No, we've got some ancillary products. So we've got like a data fee. We've got like a couple of bits like website monitoring, because obviously landing pages and websites are a massive part of us. So again, this is from a time when we didn't have it, and it was an issue because we had ads live all weekend. We didn't have coverage of it. We found out the landing page was down. So on the Saturday and Sunday, the results were saying nil, spend £2,000 a day. So we're like, well, we can't let this happen again. So we just provide a solution where it will track their website and make sure it's live. So as soon as it goes down, within 2 minutes, you get like a notification in Slack to say the website's gone down.
Nice.
ECRM is paid on deal. So that is on completion of a deal, so not on lead. Everything else, obviously, we've got the creative agency. So we do like content days, we do video production. That's all just ad hoc project basis. We've got social media management services, which is just a standard retainer. But it's all based around what is our core offering, and that is paid advertising. And I think over the years we have had a few that have had a different pricing model, but by and large, if it hits our niche, then it'll be this is your pricing matrix, because we know it works for you and it works for us.
What do you think are the top three most important parts of ensuring three most important things to ensuring a good lead cost and through, let's say, a meta campaign that remains consistent over time? Is it volume of creative into the ad account? Is it the funnel that you're using? What are the three most important components to that to you guys?
Your landing page has got to be number one.
Is it lead magnets, or are they? What is it? Just direct offer?
We use like an unbound solution, and then it's just an application form on the website. So it's just a full finance application. But the actual landing page itself and the form that you use is pivotal. We could have the best ads in the world, but if we're going to a website that's got a subpar form, it doesn't load quick.
It's unbalanced, the form itself.
No, the actual application form is through a third-party provider, and that's been great because it's been a bit of an industry standard. So we know that works. So every client that comes on, if they don't have this form, we will say, again, part of the discovery call, you need to get this form. Well, you need to get one that looks or does the same thing as that, because if you haven't got that, it's not going to work. So the landing pages, I would say, the most important, because even if our ads are the absolute best thing in the world, you're taking them to a page where they're not going to convert, and that will just increase your costs straight away. And then I think for this answer, I've probably got the wrong person on here. It probably would have been Luke, our head of agency, to give us that. But your usual stuff like click-through rate is massive in terms of to know that an ad's doing well, and then just testing different ad formats, so video against single image against carousel, all that sort of stuff. But
nice. And the creative agency, has that always been ran in tandem to the main agency alongside? And is that an instrumental part of delivering the service that you currently have, or is it kind of a bit of a side gig? It's
quite interesting that, because it was two separate agencies. One was mine, and then it had staff attached to it. And then when the acquisition went through last year, and obviously became like more of a group structure, we literally just spent a load of money on the website for the creative brand. So we like to keep it there, and it just changes. If we ever need to go to market as something different and not a lead gen agency for financial services, we can be a creative agency. You'll know in yourself, like, it just gives you more focus. And again, we're trying to just create a bit of a niche there by doing that. But in terms of how it works now, it's all one team. Like the actual creative team, the sum of those parts is the creative agency for Nonstop, but it's also the creative team for Leadly. It's just basically a shop window to go to market in a slightly different way.
Fine. Yeah, makes sense. Which you often see quite a lot in the industry.
Yeah.
Separating the brands. And most of the team are based in Manchester.
Yeah.
And then you still have, we spoke off camera, you've got team members kind of scattered around as well. What is your theology around in-person offices versus virtual companies kind of being a bit of a hybrid over the years?
I can only go off what we're experiencing now, in that the Manchester office that we've got, and there's like maybe 16, 17 of us, it has been amazing, and it's something that we want to keep going. We have obviously got legacy staff who've been with us for a few years, who are offshore, who are absolutely fantastic, that we want to, and they're ingrained into the culture. But what we found is trying to get them up to our level of involvement offshore, it was quite tough in terms of where we want people to be. And we have, like, one of our values is involved, and over like 3 or 4 years it's good, but when we're growing quick and we need people to slot in and really feel like they're a part of something straight away, just having that in-person contact, even just be able to shake someone's hand or give them a hug. Like, if me and you were trying to generate a friendship and we never saw each other, we'd be able to do it, but I think it would just take a lot longer. Whereas if we were sat in the same room as each other, that same effort is down.
Agreed.
A lot quicker, and there's a lot more focus. So with us growing this quick, we just had to make the decision that we will still have that option, and we want to hire offshore people because there's amazing talent everywhere. But for those key roles, and just keeping that focus in the Manchester area if possible, or our satellite office in Kent, it's just really helped us. And I can only go off the last sort of 6 to 8 months. Every person that has come in since March has been like, this is amazing.
I am yet to meet an agency owner beyond a certain revenue level, or even beyond a certain team level, and that team level I would say is about 30 team members, that thrives without an office. And that goes against what my belief system was even up to like 24 months ago. Always believed, I was like, as an agency you could scale this pretty infinitely, but actually you then start feeling the strain of that probably around 25, 30 team members, which I think is really interesting, because it was quite difficult for us to transition into having our, now, as I said to you, our creative office in Sheffield, because we have a handful of people that work there, but the rest are all over the world. And I can only imagine that that'll be something that will transition over time. But it's very interesting. And I think agencies thrive off collective collaboration, and if not there, it's quite an isolating model, and roles can sometimes be a little bit monotonous as well. And so if you're not sharing in what the greater vision is of what everybody else is working on, it's quite hard just staying in your one lane on your one piece. To say you're a media buyer just running the ads, but not getting in that big picture of what your greater impact is across the whole company.
Yeah, and to be fair, and this is something that I've been quite conscious of, just me personally. When I've been the direct report for someone who's offshore, sometimes you'll have a daily call with them or something for 15 minutes, and then because they're not there, then it's like out of sight, out of mind, and I'm on to the next thing, and I'm in like 4 or 5 other meetings, but that person might be just sat there really, feeling down, but because I can't see them, it's like out of sight, out of mind. I'm not consciously thinking about that person, but it's just the fact that if I could see that person sitting there, I'd be like, I can see they're not engaged, and I'd do something about it. Whereas it's just, we're so fast paced, and it has sort of shown a few cracks with a few of the offshore people that we've made to try to onboard quite quick and try to get them up to a certain level, and it just hasn't really worked. So I'd much prefer, for by and large, to have people there that can see to make sure they're okay. Not every day. I think the hybrid is a great model. I think that's the best model. But
so not everyone's in the office every single day?
No, so we do 2 days a week, Tuesday and a Thursday.
Oh, nice. Only 2 days in?
Yeah, I go in every day. And to be fair, people, even though we only tell them it's 2 days, they do come in more.
And it's all
I
the
think
same
that's-
day, or is it alternate days?
So we say Tuesday and a Thursday to the
Tuesday,
guys.
Thursday.
I go in every day, and there's a few others that go in every day. But some people come in like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Some people come in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They actually come in more than what we expect them to do, which it must be a good sign that if they're wanting to travel in. So yeah, it works.
Have you tracked efficiency in versus out of office whilst you've been hybrid like that?
No, I wouldn't say we have, and that's because obviously the media buying team predominantly was offshore for a period of time. Across Europe, across Asia, across the Philippines. So we didn't have a benchmark, whereas now we have got a lot more media buyers onshore as well. We've got that really nice blend now. We haven't done that exercise in terms of efficiencies, but we definitely will do.
Yeah, it's interesting. It would just be very interesting to see, whilst people are in that mentality of they know they're hybrid, so they have the choice of both. It'd be interesting to...
Well, I suppose we haven't done the exercise, but no, you're absolutely right. You can see actively that the people that when we've had to make some tough decisions because the actual output isn't good enough. And when you look at what they have on as a member of the team, they should be doing those things, and they haven't been doing. And it's that constant. Do they need more support from me, or are they not involved? Basically, are they not engaged? And I can fully understand, for me as a person, why I wouldn't potentially feel engaged. And that, again, it's not a one size fits all, but I can understand why if you've never met people and it's quite a distant relationship, even if you have a daily call with someone, how engaged can you realistically be with that team?
Yeah, I know it's difficult. You have to have a lot of meetings.
A lot of meetings. Yeah, and again, like the guys who've been with us for a while, who've been offshore, they've been with us for a while, and they've been with us from the start, so they're part of it.
Yeah. What is the collective vision of Leadly? Like, what are you guys working towards? And not necessarily as a from the business perspective, but just what drives the company and you three founders in particular.
We do have a vision. Our vision is connecting people with a service, and it's actually connecting the entire population with a service that they need. So obviously that's like a big blue sky thought process. But in terms of what motivates us, it's just that constant grind and just what's next for us. And we were talking about this in the pub the other night, actually. We're not passionate about car finance. I don't go home and read a load of literature on like car finance. And when I was at my old place, I wasn't passionate about car dealer websites. But the fact that I was doing it in an environment where I love my team and everyone had that same feeling towards each other, we could be doing anything together. I know we could be doing anything, and we'd make a success out of it. So I don't know how you'd put that into an actual sentence.
Collective growth, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's being part of other people's growth.
Yeah. I say to everyone that comes in and has an interview when they start, and I say, they always ask about opportunity and what's progression. And I always say to them, we can bring in sales and we can get people through the door in terms of clients, but you guys have to be the ones that grow it. I'll give you the tools, we'll give you the resource, I'll give you the platform. But the only way you're going to get more people in your team is by you doing a great job, not from me. And that makes them think, oh wow, I can do it. And then all we've got to do is just keep nudging him along a little bit by bit. We took a guy in March, one of the email guys, and I love this because when we were having a chat with me, him, and his line manager at the time, and I said to him, like, where do you want to be? Standard question. He said, I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but he addressed it to the line manager and he said, I want your job. And I was like, I love that. And I said that in front, and Matt and the other guy was like, yeah, I love that, to be fair. And we had that same conversation, and now within 3 months after that, he got a grad in under him, and then again we're looking to hire another person now. So he's had that conversation, he's thought, well, I can do this, and he's grown that team. He needs team members now. There you go, brilliant.
I had a similar conversation with someone recently about team progression, and the people that progress, actually just like yourself, really, are the people that you can set a path out for someone, but they have to actively walk down that path. Or in fact, actually, it's almost like the team member carves the path and you just facilitate the path for them.
Yeah.
Like the team member has to actively be pulling themselves into that position. Because if not, especially if we're looking to bring on directors or managers and so on, like we don't want to be like, I need a director. Who from my team is actually suitable for it? That should be so clear to you who that person is, because they are constantly like, pick me, pick me, pick me.
Yeah.
I'm the guy. Through repetition of proving to you that they can, like I said to you a moment ago, one of my team members we've been on a launch, and for the last 3 days on a trot, she's worked the graveyard shift with me, doing first thing in the morning till midnight. Now, I don't recommend any employer doing that, and I had no expectation. And this is like you don't have to do this, by the way. And she's like, I don't think you've got to understand. I've got your back. Like the company needs this right now, and I'm here for it. She's the first person I'm looking to when we're looking to progress, and she's gonna. And I know we will reward that. We're not going to reward the person that says, I want to grow, but then doesn't play a part in what that self-growth looks like. Because it's then like, well, as a company, we have to spend the time to try and figure out what we can do with you. Whereas if you actually were the term A player, as we say, if you were an A player, whatever that means to you, you would play an active role in carving out what your future actively looks like. In the same sense that we go to the gym with a vision of who we're going to be, we have the team member has to have the vision of who they want to be in the company in order to become that. Because if not, then they are essentially leaving their reality down to fate. And the kind of person that leaves their reality down to fate is not really someone with a true active growth mindset that you would need in those superior positions. Yeah,
and I think, to be fair, you do need to, with some people, show them a bit of a road as well, in terms of they might not understand their actual capabilities, they might not actually know what they're capable of, but actually just showing them a road, somewhat of a road, give them the tools, and just get out of the way, and we're just there to be pushing.
But they've got to be willing to go down that
100%.
road.
They've got to do the work, yeah. But I know from a place before I joined my last company, I was in an environment that I just didn't enjoy it, and then I come into an environment that someone put my arm around me, gave me that support, and straight away I'm like, right, I know what I want to do now. I want to keep progressing. So I hope that our guys can see that in us, me, Tom, and Luke, that they've just got 100%. Those people there that just go, you can do this. I'm going to keep pushing you, but you've got to do it. You've got to drive 100%. The car.
Yeah, people don't realise their true potential until someone opens that potential up to them.
That's one thing that I'll forever be thankful for my old boss Pippa for, and now Tom. They just keep me on the path somewhat, but they just keep pushing me. And every time there's an opportunity to just get a little bit better, they'll just keep pushing me and just keep testing me, and that's what I've loved, really.
That's amazing. So as a business, what would you say is, or can you share, one of the biggest failures that you've had over the past 4 years?
We spoke about this in the week. I genuinely can't think of a massive failure. I think maybe getting the offshore stuff wrong on a couple of occasions in terms of how we actually hire offshore. I think it's really tough. And one thing that swayed us, and it's really hard to sort of try and quantify how good someone is if they're offshore sometimes, because if their English language is exceptional, it's like almost skews your brain sometimes to think this person is the guy. If you heard him speak, you wouldn't ever say that about someone if they were just from England. I think just getting that wrong, and that being at the expense of some people who we've had to make tough decisions with. That's obviously not a nice thing for us to do. And even though it's the right thing to do, I would rather have just not put those people through that process of us thinking we know what we want. Maybe we actually want something slightly different. There's still a person behind that who's got a job, who's got a family, who's got bills to pay. So that's probably the one thing I would say is a failure. But we've learned from it, and we're in a place now where all those sort of things are laser focused, and we know exactly what we want.
What a beautiful place to be in an agency if that's your biggest failure.
Yeah, the people. We haven't gone through that. I mean, touch wood, massively touch wood. And Tom always says to us, and we always have this conversation, there will be a big one.
Yeah.
And he will come.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bring it on. Because
Yeah.
I know we'll get through it. And I look
Yeah.
at the team and I go, we will 100% get through it. So whatever it is, bring it on. And it'll make us better.
How just to follow on from that then, how out of 10, what would you rate running an agency like from like a stress perspective? Like how stressful would you rate running an agency out of 10? Broadly speaking, looking at kind of everything from a bird's eye view.
I'm quite a stressy person though, so it definitely suits me.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's definitely up there. It's like 8s and above.
Okay. Now I feel better about the situation because I'm like,
Yeah, something's not right here.
maybe,
is it?
maybe if you came over to direct consumer e-commerce, we'd be having a different conversation.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely.
Try losing 40% of your client base and rebuilding.
Yeah.
that.
No, yeah, 100%. It's
Yeah.
it's up there massively.
Yeah, fair. That's awesome.
But like you said, I think you do need that in the environment of an agency.
You have to.
And the moment that we look to, I think I love process, don't get me wrong, but you can add too much in and you become slow and you forget the reason that you actually became that really cool agency in the first place. It was because you know the velocity and speed and how quick you get stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
All these processes that come in mid-layer management, and you just slow down, you may end up becoming this corporate engine that just churns out like okay work, and there's SLAs for everything. I think all that stuff's valuable, but there still needs to be a bit of fire in our bellies to make sure that we're still ripping stuff up and changing stuff and getting better day on day, week on week.
You've mentioned process a few times. Obviously, kind of alongside process comes systemization, and I'm interested to hear, being a high performance lead generation agency, how you guys have now integrated AI into the business and how instrumental that is, if at all, in the company so far.
Creative, it's massive. When you've got clients who wanting to spend 40, 50 grand a day, the creative velocity that you need off the back of that is enormous. You know, if I think Luke did a piece of work and he found out that it's maybe between 5 and 10% of our ads that we produce actually hit the target costs. So we can rework those figures to work out if they're spending 10 grand a day, 50 grand a day, how many creatives do we need to produce per day to try and hit our targets, and then factoring in like creative fatigue and all the rest of it. So using AI, something like ArcAds that can get you AI people that can do your videos, AI UGC creators, using things like Midjourney. From a creative production standpoint, it's been huge. And obviously ChatGPT, if you ever want to do like script writing and just giving you a base to work off. I use ChatGPT a lot in my workflow, just for those times when if I haven't got the headspace for it, but I know what I want to do, I just use ChatGPT as a soundboard to get me started on it, and then that takes you down a certain path. So I'd say it's been massive, and that's something that Luke, our head of agency, has always been massively keen on doing, is just anything that's new and that looks cool, it's got a bit of AI into it, he'll always try and pitch to me and Tom like, look, should we do this? Should we look at this one?
Yeah. I mean, with AI, with lead generation being so data heavy, I can imagine that from a data perspective as well, there'll be a lot of great solutions in the future. You just holding that thought for a second, you just shared something that's a really valuable ad, which is that your creative, between 1 in 10 and 1 in 20 essentially creatives hit your KPIs that you're looking for with your individual clients.
For that client, yeah.
For that one client,
yeah.
What would you say, broadly speaking, for most? Because I think that gives a really valuable perspective on what people's output should really be like. Because I think a lot of agencies, and when I say a lot of agencies, lots of, I'm talking quite about beginners and people that are just starting out, or maybe a couple of years in. I think we've all seen a massive shift in certainly the media buying space in the last 24 months, maybe even a little bit longer than that, ever since the iOS 14 thing, which is, I feel like a dinosaur talking about iOS 14 now. But anyway, everything shifted towards creative. Like media buying stopped, all of the manual bidding and everything. Like that just kind of stopped overnight. But a lot of agencies still naively think they can launch free ads in an ad account, and then if none of them convert, it's like, oh, something's wrong here, and they don't realise that actually it's creative iteration and creative output that's their bottleneck. So what would you say is, if you were to speculate on average, I know it's probably a question for your other partner, how many creatives you go through to find a winning ad that you actually end up running long term?
It is generally from the work that Luke's done. And again, that's a very small catchment pool. It's like 1 in 10.
Interesting. Yeah.
But it might vary. That might vary massively in terms of industry, but it's a great exercise to do. We've only done that sort of quite recently, and that's off the back of some of our clients really wanting to go heavy on spend, like quick. So in order for us to keep up with creative velocity, because we felt like we were lagging behind a bit there, he did that exact piece of work to say, if they're spending this, we're going to need 2 more designers. If they're spending this, we're going to need 3 more designers, and more software. All these things that we can then forecast out for anyone else that comes on.
Yeah, fine. Okay. And then, again, I don't want to get too stuck into service. I'm kind of being quite selfish with my questions right now from personal interest. But when you're running ads at high volume through lead gen, when you find a winner, is that ad running and staying long term, as in 2-3 months in some cases, or is it, because at least in our world in e-commerce, an ad might be incredible and you might get tens of thousands of spend out of that ad, but it might only last 7 days in some cases. So do the ads last much longer?
Yeah, and again, that's all based on spend. So say if our average spend on an account is $1 to $2 grand a day on Meta, you'll have like your unicorn ads, what we call them, in there that will last sort of 2 to 3 months. It might be 1, and then that will then could run for 6, 7, 8 months because of all the social proof that'll come on it and all the comments and all the shares off the back of it. It's just sort of fueling that engine. The one slight caveat with us is because we're in financial services, their compliance that has to go in the video or on the image will change quarterly or could change quarterly. So regardless of how good it is, the compliance team comes knocking and says, you need to take that ad down because the representative example on there is incorrect. So that is a bit of an Achilles heel with it being in our sector, but we manage it.
Nice. Awesome. Okay. If you were to launch an agency today, knowing what you know now, having had an agency in the past and still like now having 2 different agencies, understanding the market, what would you do in order to grow as quickly as possible?
I would definitely do something similar to what we've done in terms of performance-based pricing. Pick a niche that's got a volume, because you don't want. We've looked at stuff like financial advisor leads, and the revenue off the back of them could be massive. It could be £250,000 for the clients, but they only want 4 leads a month. So it doesn't really work from a performance model based standpoint. And again, not even just thinking about from a commercial point of view, thinking about the delivery team and who's managing that. If you've only got 4 leads per month, how interesting is that to work on? From our point of view, we just have to say to that person, you just sort of got to get them in and we'll see what happens, because they take 12 months to mature out, so we're not going to know if that lead turns into a deal. So whereas our stuff could be 7-day turnaround, so you've a load of data to go at. So I think high volume, smaller, we call them maturity windows. So if the lead gen process is 1 to 7 or 1 to 10 days, that's a big win, because it means that you can follow the data and not wait a long time. I'm basically saying come into our space, but don't come into our space.
Well, no one would be able to compete with you in your space because of the
I'll bring it on. It might make us better, so I'm always open to it.
Yeah. So just find a large market which has the ability to take it on and handle a large volume of leads.
Yeah, and if it's not a niche, there's a lot of lead gen things like selling beds and stuff, doing lead gen for buying products and stuff like that. As long as it's names, numbers, and emails, and there's volume there, it's worth a go.
Yeah. What was your agency doing beforehand? Your when you were freelance, what were you specifically offering them? Was it the creative?
It was the organic. So organic and some media buying. So when I left my old place, I was the only paid social person in that team. And there was no one else in the company of like 80, 90 staff that knew paid social. So in my head, I was literally Mark Zuckerberg. I thought I was mint. I thought it was really good. And then when I left and started doing stuff with Tom, and he introduced me to some of those guys, I quickly realised, I've got a lot to learn here, which I like that. But so it was organic social and the media buying.
Fine. And you don't do organic social now, do you, in the business?
We do through the creative brand, through Nonstop.
Fine. For the same industry.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that's also open to other stuff because that's part of like the creative agency and how we go to market with that.
Yeah.
We will take on any client in that space.
Fine. How do you find that as a service in general? I've always found organic social to be quite an unprofitable service.
It's not unprofitable for us. It's more, especially being in the financial space, it's just that it's the added value side of it. So when you get to a certain level of client or company, a lot of companies look at it as like a necessary evil. It's something they just need to be doing. So we need to make sure that if they need to be doing it, how can we make this the best possible thing that they could have? So giving them a videographer that comes to the site once a month, giving them a UGC creator that comes to the site once a month to actually get video, which is what all these platforms are all about now. We know we're doing TikTok stuff, doing stuff for Reels. Well, the reason that we've left it there in terms of it's not industry specific is I think organic social can still work for other industries. And I think TikTok, with how quickly you can actually scale personal accounts and company accounts, I still think there's an opportunity there.
So I noticed that on your website, TikTok, and actually it's I'm glad you brought it up because I remember thinking to myself, it's interesting. I've not seen a lead generation agency at scale of your volume running TikTok ads as a core service.
Yeah.
So you're running TikTok ads for lead generation.
Yeah.
Because I noticed there's something TikTok are really heavily pushing at the moment. We work with TikTok quite closely, and they are
Support's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's better than Meta.
Yeah. And they can, I mean, anyone's better. Anyone's better than Meta. But I've had many a conversation with TikTok, and they are really trying to push TikTok for lead gen. And to be honest, I put it in a box, and I was like, I'm not sure that I can see TikTok being a great lead generation platform. But you're going a real step further that goes against my thought process, which is you're doing that for a professional service as well, which even more so makes me it's interesting to me. So, how did you figure that out? What are some of the things that you've learned from running TikTok lead generation?
In terms of how we figured it out, it's just it just comes down to trying it. It's the new thing, and we make a decision. Let's try it. It's the same sort of metrics as Meta in terms of what you're looking at. Obviously, it's not pay-per-click; it's obviously impression-led. So we just tried it for a good period of time, especially in car finance. It does seem like it's a bit of a Bing to a Google. So like we see TikTok to Meta as like a Bing to a Google. So there's a market there and it's good, but you're not going to be able to get away $2-3 grand a day consistently every day and rely on it for week on week, month on month. Whereas Meta and Google, you can put your bets on those two platforms. Same with Bing. There's a market there. You can get some volume away, but with the stuff that we're looking at, you can maybe spend a tenth of what you could on Google or 20% of it. So it's just factoring that into your strategy, because it's still good to diversify and remove your risk, because Meta for us over the years has been a massive issue with like ad accounts getting blocked, pages getting unpublished, pages getting blocked from advertising, all unjustified, but trying to get a response out of someone from Meta is, as you know, pretty difficult.
Are you then going down the route of paying a backhander to get the ad account reinstated? Have you had to do that?
So Luke told us about this recently. So we've always, it took us a while to get an agency rep, and then we got one. And then you find out that it's still on an advertiser level in terms of how to get escalated support based on certain things. So it's just it's an ongoing battle. And to be fair, we had a chat with him this week, and I feel bad. I do feel a little bit bad for him, to be fair. But they're in a system that just seems so broken. Like how they actually, there's no CRM. The support just does it here or there.
There is no CRM.
They said like the inquiries come in via like an email thread, and I was like, this sounds bonkers.
Crazy. It's deliberate in what for whatever reason, but it's crazy.
Whereas TikTok, we said to him, our TikTok rep is literally coming into Manchester next Wednesday. We're going out for lunch with him.
Oh, TikTok's completely different.
Yeah,
it's a completely different world there. We've had to pay to get ad accounts reinstated, and many a times it can be an absolute nightmare. Oh yeah, I've got a couple of good contacts if you ever need one.
Yeah.
But yeah, but you got to do what you got to do. That's the last thing you want to do. So the last thing you want to do is pay some dodgy bloke on Telegram to get your ad account reinstated. But with tens of different accounts, and loads of other people have had to do the same. But when you've got a client spending tons and tons, and as you know, ad accounts get banned for like no reason, and
Yeah.
there's nothing provided, and you know that you haven't done anything, but if the computer says no, and
Yeah.
then that's what
Yeah,
it
yeah.
says,
And that's where it
someone's
comes
whole
tough.
business.
Yeah, because it is someone's whole business. Like for some of our clients, and it's not. We do always try and say to them, like, can we diversify? Can we try a bit on Google? Can we try just something else? Because you 100% all your eggs are in Meta's basket, and that is a great basket to be in when it's working. But when that goes down, it's tough.
Yeah, it's scary. How has lead cost differed from, like, how do they rank from like TikTok? I mean, obviously I know Google is different because it's more intent, but it's from Meta, Google, TikTok.
Yeah.
And are you charging the same cost per lead, like, to all clients regardless of the cost? Yeah. On the platform.
Yeah, because the reason we sort of do that, and we could look to change it, and we have sort of spoke about that, but we will always start with Meta, and we always say to people, if they've not done it before, start with Meta. We'll get you up to a certain level of spend through Meta, and then we'll start to look at Google. Because the reason for that is we want to focus on one first, then look on to the next one. Because if you're getting onto Google, you want to get them up to a certain level of spend before you even start looking at Google, because obviously it's higher entry point. But in terms of the costs, yeah, TikTok and Meta are similar. Bing, a little bit more expensive. And then Google.
Are you doing Bing ads as well?
We do some Bing, yeah. Again, that might be at a point where for the larger clients that we work with, they're still just looking to diversify and maybe get 20 deals a month through Bing, where they get 200 through Google, that sort
What's
of
the most that you're spending on Bing on a monthly basis?
upwards of like $1,000.
Okay.
Not much.
Okay. I was waiting for a 100k Bing spend.
no, that'd be nice.
Yeah, just a new avenue to go.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
And having, what we like to do as well, and this is just going slightly off track, but with the advertising platforms, yes, the cost per lead is important. Yes, the cost per deal is important, but it's actually looking at the number of people that have been contacted or handled as an inquiry source. What's the approval? What's the deal rate from that point to deal? And what that shows you is the efficiency of the platform as well. So if, for example, Meta's cost per lead is £1, for example, but you only convert 1 in 100, but you've got to ring 100 people. That means that your bandwidth for the day might be doing one deal because you've got to ring 100 people. Google might be £20 for a lead, so 20 times more expensive, but you convert 1 in 2, for example. So it's actually better from a cost point of view, but you're a lot more efficient. So your bandwidth for that day as a salesperson is way higher if you're dealing with that inquiry source, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Are you tracking, as well as that, the qualification rate of the leads?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll, again, for car finance, it's usually lead, approval, contacted approval, deal. And then we monitor. Those are the 4 key stages that we monitor for every client, really.
Do you get held to like a conditional like approval percentage, like based on your ads? Because and how do the ads have a large influence on the quality of the lead coming in, presumably, at least with a lot of industries. I don't know what it's like.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you get held accountable for that? Are there KPIs that you have to stick to with your, like, that are conditional to your cost per lead, like, charge?
No, not conditional. And to be fair, some clients do say this to us, and quite a few people have said it to me, like, well, what if you just give us a load of rubbish leads? And I'm like, well, how long are you going to stay with us, though? Because you're on a 30-day rolling. And they're like, well, yeah, good point. So it's in our interest to make sure the leads are good. But there's no condition in the agreement to hit a certain metric. It all goes, again, I'm just all about just managing expectations and being upfront from the start. So when I ask them around the lender situation, if there's 20 lenders available and you've got 10, I need to manage their expectations to say the qualification or approval status of the leads that come through might be 50% less likely because you've only got 50% of the lenders available in the market. Does that still work for you? Let's have a look at it. If it still works for you, then the expectations have just gone from there, and now they're there. The goalposts have changed, basically, but they're aware of them. So there's been like 3 or 4 clients that we've onboarded since, that we onboarded like the start of this year, and I'm thinking of these 4 because they've all said a similar thing to me, that we manage their expectations perfectly. And every little niggle that's happened along the way, they were like, well, you told us about this, so it's been great. And it just shows that it's working.
So important, and it's just the opposite of what most people do, because they think they just have to sell, and then get the money, and then life is hell for the next 3 months because they're trying to live up to something that's completely unrealistic.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't work.
You're just setting yourself up for an headache, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you factor in actively kind of going beyond setting their expectation and actually trying to over deliver on the promises that you've let out, or is it kind of just like, this is how it's going to go and then it goes that exact way?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think we probably do say it just about right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't try and under or oversell it. We just try and give them what it should be. And again, I don't know if we do that naturally or because we're in a focused industry where it's quite an incestuous industry. A lot of people will work at one of our clients and they'll leave and go and work at another. But yeah, I think we just like being straight with people, and it seems to be working. Nice,
fine. And obviously, you're getting a lot of clients from referrals at the moment as like the main acquisition channel. Correct me if I'm wrong, but do you have a system that you or like a process that you take people through to get referrals? Is it purely organic? Yeah, is it incentivized? Like, what does the referral system look like?
Yeah, we don't have any incentive in there. It's weirdly, a lot of our clients refer other people on who do the exact same thing as them. They might even be based down the road, but they're just like, well, the market's that big and there's that much volume available.
And they have no reason to do so. They just do so just to help you guys.
Well, obviously, when it first starts happening, we're like, brilliant, thank you very much.
Yeah.
But are they not your competitor and based 2 minutes down the road? And they're like, yeah, but they want a marketing agency, marketing partner. You guys do a great job. The market's massive. They're going to do it anyway. So I would rather, because I know them, introduce them to someone that I think would do a good job for them.
And all leads are national leads anyway for the client, presumably, are they?
Yeah, so if they're a broker, again, I don't want to go too much into the industry stuff, but generally speaking, they'll be national. But then you do work with like a typical car dealership who might be finance focused. They might be in a region of, say, Manchester. Then your targeting does change. And then with the targeting changing, your cost per lead metric's going to change because your pool's a lot smaller. So again, managing expectations there in terms of it's not this, it's going to be this.
Yeah. The reason I asked that question is because lots of clients will be unhappy with you working with other businesses that are in the local vicinity if you're competing over those local leads. And so some agencies will then do that exclusivity in a local area, for example. So it's intrigued to know if you guys do that.
Yeah, we probably, if it was in a local area and it worked for both parties, then we would look to, we could consider that, but it's got to be, how big's that area?
Yeah.
You know, if it's in Cornwall, for example, and there's only one competitor or there's no competitors, then it's a different conversation. If you want to do it in Manchester when there's literally tens of competitors, it's like,
it's got to be a big
deal.
It's
going to be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to pay that, that's fair enough, but it's got to work for both of us.
100%. Awesome. Okay, final question for you, Joe. I've loved this, by the way. I love doing these podcasts because it allows me to ask as many selfish questions as I wanted to understand the minds of other agency owners. I just find it's such a diverse business model and so much is going on a daily basis, and any time that you're dealing with people, it's just it's interesting to hear your take. What would your advice be to someone who is watching this who is not yet at the point they want to be in their agency, regardless of time span? Maybe they've been running their agency for a couple of years and they're kind of stuck around that 10k a month point, for example, maybe a couple of team members, and they can't seem to be able to cement their place in a market and push through and actually scale. What would your advice be to someone in that position?
It's got to be sales over everything initially. So without sales coming through, you're never going to get anywhere. With sales becomes more opportunity, becomes more failures, becomes more chances to learn, becomes more chance to progress. So we were just relentless with sales over everything for the first year. As long as you've got people in-house that will roll the sleeves up and get stuck in, which is what basically I and the other people did. If you've got stuff coming through the door, you will get to a point where you're finding out your niche, you're finding which avenue you're going to go down.
Would you say, with that in mind then, that it is better for people to be completely open to all opportunity when they're first starting out, collect data, and then hone in on a niche later once they've established what is working for them or what they actually, where they're getting results? Yeah,
I think like you're choosing, I would definitely choose if you want to do lead gen or do more econ based stuff. But initially, sales over everything. Just get some clients through the door and just see what works.
Mm-hmm.
Just rip stuff up, get better every time, get better every day, every week. But if you've got fresh stuff coming through the door, you're going to find out what's working for you and your team. Like what works for us might not work for you, for example, but
Of course.
doesn't mean it doesn't work.
100%. There are 1,000 ways to run an agency.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Joe, thank you so much, man.